Hello, Dr. Paul Cleveland with Boundary Stone, and the last couple of times I've been talking to you a little bit about the 2008 financial crisis as well as issues of monetary expansion in the marketplace. I think one thing that will help you understand something more about the process of the boom-bust cycle is to understand the nature of capital. If I think about capital, capital is any particular good that we're going to employ to produce some other good. Well, it can be all sorts of things then. It can be building a plant. It can be all the equipment in the plant. All those things are capital. And sometimes the notion of capital can be a little bit elusive for us. For example, do I consider an oven capital? Well, oftentimes it's considered a consumer good if a homeowner goes out and buys a new oven. But if it's a bakery that goes out and buys an oven, that's a capital purchase. So there are some gray areas when we discuss capital. And another thing that I'd like to help us to focus in on is that a good way to think of capital, we can think of it as this. Some capital is fixed, like building a plant and getting the equipment to use in the plant to produce whatever it is we're producing. But some of it is what we call circulating capital. These are things that are moving through the process. An example of this, if I think about the automobile industry, building the plant and the presses, the robots, all those sorts of things, that's fixed capital. But then I can also think of circulating capital. Well, probably every so often we have windshield showing up from a supplier. We have automobile tires showing up from a supplier. We have sheet metal coming into the plant and big presses stamping out various parts that are going to be fitted together to produce an automobile. And so if we follow that process down the line, at the end of the line, off the line rolls a brand new automobile that will sit in inventory. And so it's circulating through a process on its way to the final customer. Well, let's think about this for a moment. I talked last time a little bit about the Federal Reserve, creating money out of thin air and artificially reducing market rates of interest. Well, what that does then, if I'm thinking about it from the business point of view, I'm looking at things and I'm saying, well, the cost of financing my capital has gone down. And if I think about it from that perspective, the cost of capital has gone down, then the signal I'm getting is people are willing to postpone consumption from the present to the future, and I can think of longer terms of production processes that may be more productive in the long term, but in the short term I've got to give up more consumption in the present. However, if that's an artificial signal, in other words, people aren't willing to postpone consumption from the present to the future, then reducing market rates of interest artificially, savers actually end up saving less. And that as we begin to move to the future, all of a sudden we're having goods come off the off the production lines, and people are not economically equipped. In other words, they don't have the financial wherewithal to buy it all. They're consuming far more, and they don't have the savings to support that kind of consumption. And so when that happens, that's when a bust occurs in the market process. And those busts, capital's got to liquidate. If you can't sell that inventory off, you're going to have to cut prices. You're going to have to incur losses. But then you're not going to continue to produce stuff that you cannot sell. To the extent that the capital, the fixed capital that you invested in, cannot be used to do something else, then it's going to be idled. And so that's where you end up with, in a recession, you have see-through buildings and that sort of thing, because people have constructed stuff that can't be supported by any kind of profitable business enterprise. I hope this has been helpful to you to understand it a little bit better. Once again, Dr. Paul Cleveland with Boundary Stone, trying to help you make sense of your world. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.